Have you ever wondered about the story behind one of the most famous landmarks in the world? We all know the Statue of Liberty, that colossal green figure standing proudly in New York Harbor. But how did she get there? This isn't just a story about a statue. It's an epic tale of ambition, innovation, and the incredible power of people coming together. It's a journey that spans continents, involves some of the greatest minds of the 19th century, and almost didn't happen. Our story begins not in America, but in France, in 1865, at a dinner party near Versailles. The host was Édouard de Laboulaye, a prominent French political thinker and a huge admirer of the United States. He was fascinated by America's recent victory in the Civil War and the abolition of slavery. He saw it as a triumph for the ideals of liberty and democracy. During the dinner, Laboulaye proposed a grand idea. France should give the United States a monumental gift to commemorate the alliance between the two nations during the American Revolution and to celebrate the centennial of American independence. It would be a joint project, a symbol of shared values. Among the guests was a young, ambitious sculptor named Frédéric Auguste Bartholdi. Laboulaye's idea immediately captured his imagination. Bartholdi was already known for his large-scale sculptures, and the thought of creating something so monumental, so meaningful, was the project of a lifetime. He envisioned a colossal woman, a figure of liberty, holding a torch to enlighten the world. This wasn't just going to be a statue, it was going to be a powerful message. In 1871, Bartholdi traveled to the United States to find the perfect location for his creation. As his ship sailed into New York Harbor, he spotted a small island called Bedloe's Island. It was perfect. The statue would be the first thing immigrants and visitors saw as they arrived in America, a welcoming beacon of hope and freedom. He knew right then and there, this was where liberty would stand. With the location secured, Bartholdi returned to France and began the monumental task of designing the statue. He drew inspiration from classical art, particularly the Roman goddess Libertas. He decided she would wear a crown with 7 rays, symbolizing the 7 continents and 7 seas, and hold a tablet inscribed with the date of American independence, July 4, 1776. In her other hand, she would raise a torch, a symbol of progress and enlightenment. At her feet, he placed broken chains, representing the end of oppression and the abolition of slavery. The artistic vision was breathtaking, but turning it into a 1.51-foot-tall metal giant was an engineering nightmare. Bartholdi initially planned for a solid structure, but that would be impossibly heavy and rigid. He needed an engineer, and not just any engineer. He needed a genius. He turned to Hugues Viollet-le-Duc, a renowned architect, who proposed a clever solution. The statue would be made of thin, hammered copper sheets attached to an internal brick structure. It was a good start, but tragedy struck when Viollet-le-Duc passed away in 1879, leaving the project in jeopardy. This is where another legendary figure enters our story. Desperate for a new chief engineer, Bartholdi approached a man famous for his innovative work with iron, Gustave Eiffel. Yes, the very same Eiffel who would later build the Eiffel Tower. Eiffel looked at the existing plans and immediately saw a problem. A rigid internal structure wouldn't work. The statue needed to withstand the powerful winds of New York Harbor and the expansion and contraction of the metal in extreme temperatures. Eiffel's solution was nothing short of revolutionary. He designed a flexible, wrought iron skeleton, a massive pylon that would act as a central spine. From this spine, a network of smaller iron bars would extend outwards, connecting to the inner surface of the copper skin. But here's the genius part. The copper sheets weren't rigidly bolted to the iron framework. Instead, they were connected by flat iron bars called saddles that could bend and move. This created a curtain wall system, allowing the copper skin to breathe and move independently of the skeleton. It was a marvel of engineering, a design that allowed the massive structure to sway gently in the wind without breaking. This was one of the very first uses of curtain wall construction, a technique now common in skyscrapers all over the world. With Eiffel's brilliant design in place, the construction began in a Parisian workshop. It was an incredible sight. Hundreds of craftsmen worked tirelessly, shaping over 300 individual copper sheets. They used a technique called repulse, hammering the copper into massive wooden molds to create the statue's intricate form, from the folds of her robe to the details of her face. Piece by piece, the giant figure of liberty began to take shape right in the middle of Paris. By 1884, the statue was fully assembled in Paris, towering over the city's rooftops. It was a tourist attraction even then. The French people had funded the entire statue through donations, lotteries, and public events, a true gift from the people of France. On July 4, 1884, the statue was officially presented to the American ambassador in a grand ceremony. The first part of the deal was complete. Now came the next challenge, getting her to America. The statue was carefully disassembled into 350 individual pieces, packed into 214 wooden crates, and loaded onto the French naval ship, the Israel. The journey across the Atlantic was treacherous. The ship was hit by a violent storm and nearly sank. But thankfully, it arrived safely in New York Harbor in June of 1885. The pieces were here, but there was a huge problem. There was nowhere to put them. The agreement was that France would build and deliver the statue, while America would be responsible for building the pedestal. But fundraising for the pedestal in the U.S. had stalled. The American Committee for the Statue of Liberty had struggled to raise the necessary funds. The project was on the brink of failure. The crates containing Lady Liberty sat on Bedloe's Island for months, and it looked like she might never be assembled. This is where another hero enters the story, a man who understood the power of the press, Joseph Pulitzer. Pulitzer was an immigrant himself, a newspaper magnate who owned the New York World. He was outraged that the wealthy and the government weren't stepping up to fund the pedestal for this incredible gift. So, he launched one of the most successful crowdfunding campaigns in history. He used his newspaper to appeal directly to the common people. He wrote fiery editorials, shaming the rich and inspiring the working class. He promised to print the name of every single person who donated, no matter how small the amount, and the people responded. Donations poured in from all over the country. School children sent in their pennies, office workers pooled their dimes, and families gave what little they could. In just 5 months, Pulitzer's campaign raised over $100 more than enough to complete the pedestal. Over 120,000 people had donated, with most giving less than $1. The pedestal wasn't built by the rich. It was built by the American people. With the funding secured, construction of the pedestal, designed by American architect Richard Morris Hunt, was completed. Now, the final, colossal puzzle could be put together. Workers, many of them new immigrants, began the dangerous and difficult task of reassembling the 350 pieces on Eiffel's iron framework. It was a 4-month-long process, a high-wire act of construction. Finally, on October 28, 1886, the day arrived. A massive celebration was held in New York City. 1 million people lined the streets for a parade, the city's first ever ticker tape parade. President Grover Cleveland presided over the dedication ceremony on Bedloe's Island. As Bartholdi pulled the rope to unveil the statue's face, the crowd roared. Lady Liberty was home. In the years that followed, the Statue of Liberty became more than just a monument. For the millions of immigrants who sailed past her on their way to Ellis Island, she was the first welcome sight in their new home. She was a promise of a new beginning, a symbol of hope, freedom, and opportunity. Her original copper color slowly oxidized over the next 30 years, creating the iconic green patina we see today, a natural shield protecting the copper underneath. So, the next time you see a picture of the Statue of Liberty, remember the incredible journey she took. Remember the dreamer Laboulaye, the artist Bartholdi, the genius engineer Eiffel, and the crusading publisher Pulitzer. But most of all, remember the hundreds of thousands of ordinary French and American citizens who, through their passion and their pennies, brought this impossible dream to life. It's a testament to what we can achieve when we work together. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this story as inspiring as I do, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more journeys into history. See you next time.